What about breakfast?
We've already had it.
We've had one, yes. What about second breakfast?
Alright, so good evening, comrades and friends. It's DCHL Cole here, and we are back with another episode of Second Breakfast. And tonight, I think we're going to be talking about meta. Now, I wanted to cover this topic for a couple of reasons, actually. First of all, we just got the new profiles, and so the meta will probably be changing a bit soon, and I just figured that it would be good to get this out of the way now, before it becomes completely irrelevant. And two, because I got a lot of requests for covering different lists, which I'm definitely going to get to as soon as I can, but I wanted to definitely establish first that this show is going to be about also exploring some vaguer concepts as well. Just wanted to kind of get that out there. Alright, so let's get into it. I always find it interesting how we've appropriated the term meta from online gaming, and we've done more than just take it, we've also adapted it. The meta that we sometimes talk about is actually a new meaning of the term that we've created for our strategy battle game. So let's start with its origin. Meta is an acronym standing for Most Effective Tactic Available. Now, in SBG, we don't really use it this way. We treat meta as more of an army trend type of deal. To us, it's more about the kind of things that people are taking and the ways in which they're utilizing them than it is just about zeroing in on any particular single list. If we were to treat meta as most effective tactic available, then I do believe that the meta would be the Fell Beast list. It simply offers the most focused power as well as arguably the highest skill cap in the game. And I do believe a Fell Beast list is potentially more powerful than any other army in the game. That being said, we don't see Fell Beast spammed at every tournament, which is why I say that in SBG meta is more about a trend and a style than any one particular list. It's what sets us apart from the likes of Age of Sigmar and Warhammer 40k. So, if meta in SBG isn't a list, and it isn't an army, and it isn't a strategy, then what exactly is the meta right now? Quick disclaimer, what follows is purely my opinion and speculation. In fact, everything on Second Breakfast is going to be my opinion and speculation, but I feel it's especially important to note here because meta is such a vague concept. Alright, so here goes. I believe the meta to be options. Now, hopefully by now, you've all watched the first episode of Second Breakfast. It's on Angmar, and I talk about what I think makes an army good, and I give a bit of my philosophy in depth about options there. So check it out after you finish watching this one. Anyhow, back to the point. Options are something that every skilled player hoping to place at a tournament needs. I've likened options to tools in a toolbox before, and I'll do it again. A craftsman is only as good as his tools, so if you're looking to step up your tournament performance, you'd really best make sure you pack a lot of options into your list. Now, the most popular and quick way to do this is with magic. Magic is a Swiss Army knife, and it has countless applications and provides enough options that an opponent will have to keep on their toes. Another powerful way to add options is with a monster. The 3 brutal power attacks are going to always ensure that you have multiple possible lines of attack, and that's why Wraiths on Wings are such a popular choice because they combine the two. And to farther emphasize this point, Radagast on Slay has been on the rise in good armies. He even lets you bring along an Eagle as well, which gets you access to flying brutal power attacks. And to this end, troops have been on the decline. Heroes allow for powerful options, but troops are just there to fight and hold the line. The underlying philosophy with troops these days is that one should bring enough to make a battle line that will hold together long enough for you to utilize whatever options you brought along to secure whatever mission objectives give you the VPs that you need. This is different than it used to be. Back in the day, troops used to be the ones who fought it out. But it almost seems to me that the game has evolved to be less about fighting than it used to. It's now a game about earning VPs by completing very specific objectives. It's a race. You utilize your army's strength to earn VPs before one of the armies breaks and the game ends. Many times it's going to matter little who breaks, with the exception of course being to the death. That scenario is a little bit different, but most times it signals, breaking signals the end of the game. So let's just do a little case study. I'm excited because just like with the Angmar episode, we'll be looking at another favorite army of mine, Rivendell Knights. Now, Rivendell Knights are undeniably in the meta right now. I don't think anyone's gonna argue against that. But just why is that? And fully understand, I think we need to see a list comparison. This is going to be a comparison between my 350-point Rivendell Knight list and my 800-point Rivendell Knight list. Now obviously, everyone's list varies a good bit, and mine is certainly not completely typical, but I do get good mileage and good results out of the list. Now 350 points, I take a Rivendell Knight Captain with Shield and 11 Knights with Shield. It's a rock-solid strike force aimed to quickly burst down an opponent and break through to whatever objectives they need before either breaking or being broken and ending the game. Now let's look at my 800-point Rivendell Knight list. Rivendell Knight Captain with Shield, 11 Knights with Shield, Megalith mounted, Saruman mounted, Radagast mounted, and that's it. Despite jumping from 350 points to 800 points, a leap that more than doubles the size of an army, my troop core has remained exactly the same. And the meta just 4 years ago, that would be insanity. My core should have at least doubled. But nowadays it's considered absolutely fine. I mean, the times they've changed. So what does this mean for the game? Well, first and foremost, it means that magic has risen to the forefront. The only way to counter these Death Star hero type of lists is through a heavy dose of magic. This means that magic is present in almost all competitive lists. So now the question becomes, is there any way to stop magic? Well, let's look at it objectively. Magic is 150 or 160 with a horse points in a force that's doing absolutely nothing except denying points in the enemy force. Now, this obviously changes with a Wraith on Fellbeast as you get a flying monster with your magic for 170 points, but I honestly wouldn't be surprised to see Fellbeast go up by like 20 points next edition, so it won't be relevant for long. And personally, I'd like to see Fellbeast go up by about 40 points so that they're 90, which would be the same cost as an Eagle, which seems only fair to me, but that's a topic for another time. And back to the point, magic is roughly 160 points, whose only real role is denial. So what happens when you have nothing to deny? No big monsters, no big heroes, just troop. Well, in that situation, 160 points of your opponent's army are just going to waste. Your opponent is playing 160 points down, so the question becomes, is this it? Is this the counter to the meta, to simply play the opposite of the meta? And it's been bugging me for a while. The magic meta, as I've been calling it, seems to have evolved to counter the trend towards smaller armies. That means the meta is quite literally to counterplay the meta, and it sounds ridiculous when you say it like that, but for some reason, we are no longer seeing the hordes that should be countering the magic-heavier armies on top tables. And I think this is harmful to the overall tournament experience. Let me put it this way to help you visualize what I'm trying to get at. The tournament scene should look like a game of rock, paper, scissors. Or, I guess, Rochambeau, if you call it that. That's just what I call it. I'm going to apologize for that. But anyway, the tournament scene really should look like a game of rock, paper, scissors. Because magic-heavy armies counters the Death Star counters the Horde, and the Horde counters the magic-heavy. And that's just me oversimplifying it a bit, but I think it's an interesting way to look at it. I mean, with this three-way balance, we see armies that are balanced between the three. Because you can't expect to win a tournament if you're taking big losses every time you come up against a list that counters you. But this isn't what we're seeing, at least not in our tournament scene. And the problem is, right now, we're playing rock, paper, scissors, but without the rock. It's just paper and scissors. So who can blame top players for always throwing scissors, with magic being scissors in this analogy? So where's the rock? Why are we not seeing Pure Horde's top table? It should hold an integral part in the rock, paper, scissors triangle. So why aren't Pure Hordes working? It needs to be there to force players to balance out their lists. Figuring out where these lists have gone is the first step to rebalancing the meta. I'm about to give my thoughts on it, but it would be great to hear y'all chime in on the matter, as I'm still quite uncertain, to be honest. So head to the comments and let me know what you think. I believe that the dwindling of pure horde armies is a direct result of tournament time limits. Look, a tournament needs to run smoothly. That means that there need to be time limits on each round, and that these need to be strictly enforced. I believe this to be what's killing horde viability. With a horde, it simply takes too long to do anything, whether that be damage due to its slow grind style, or even the simple act of movement, which is dragged out by having 100 models to position. Sure, and to the death, the time limit actually helps you, as there's no way your opponent can hack through enough to break you, but in other scenarios, it's just painful. Remember what I mentioned earlier? My theory was that games were no longer about battles, but have instead become a race to achieve the necessary victory points and end the game. A horde army can't do that. They haven't the speed nor the scalpel-like precision to function as a pure point-scoring force. And this is something I don't think we can fix, because if we extend the length of the game by even a meager 15 minutes, the entire tournament would be an hour and 15 minutes longer. And this is why, aside from Fell Beasts, of course, I think Magic is considered to be cheese by so many people. Because it's scissors in a game where rock is no longer a viable option. So how can we fix this? Can we fix it? And clearly increased times aren't an option, which signals to me that the key may lie in the scenarios. There's been a whole lot of speculation as to whether we'll be seeing a redesign on the core 6 scenarios. I don't know if we will or won't, but I do believe that there's an opportunity here to potentially rebalance the meta. If the game is to switch from this fast-scoring VP race to a set of scenarios that doesn't encourage that style, I believe the meta will expand. And as for what changes exactly should be made, I'm not entirely sure. It's just something I thought of now and I haven't really had time to ponder. But that might be a topic for another video, I guess. Anyway, those are just my musings. But before I sign off, I'd kind of like to address the other potential argument about why the meta is as it is, just to play devil's advocate. And this doesn't really represent my views. So the counter-argument I consider is that armies with magic and speed and finesse like Rivendell Knights and Fellbeasts naturally attract better players looking for a challenge as a result of the required finesse, and the argument then becomes that these armies aren't too good or inherently more competitive, but rather they are simply being played by players who are better. Now, I don't buy this. I play a whole lot of Rivendell Knights and a whole lot of Angmar, as mentioned in the previous episode, and one of these armies is significantly more competitive than the other. I'll give you a hint, it isn't Angmar. Now, I've been playing Angmar a whole lot longer, and I play it a whole lot better, but I still perform better with Rivendell Knights, regardless of the fancy tricks I can pull with Angmar, and that alone is evidence enough for me that the better players just happen to play these armies argument doesn't really hold up. There's definitely a difference in competitive power in a lot of armies. Alright, well, that's it for today. As always, leave a comment letting me know your thoughts on the matter. Is magic too powerful? Is this meta stale? Am I right about the key lying in the scenarios? And if so, how would you change them? Feel free to request a topic you want covered or submit a list for review. It'd be really cool if we get like a few lists together and do an episode reviewing lists. That might be fun, I think. Anyway, I'm aiming for weekly installments of this series at the moment because I'm off at school and I don't really have all the time that I'd like. But maybe sometime soon I can step up the rate of the series because I think that would be really awesome. So subscribe to the DCHL channel for more Second Breakfast, Light in the Dark, and all the other Middle-earth SPG content. Alright, I'll see y'all next week. Topic to be decided. Signing off.